What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Panels on Pages. My name is Dalibor, and today I am joined by Jonathan Hedrick. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to have you. I wanted to kick it off right away. Now, you've got a new book coming up. It's called Dream Master. I
Mhm.
appreciate the preview copy. Great read. You
Thank
throw
you.
us right into the thick of it right out the first page. Like I read the first page and I was like, did I scroll too far? Like, am I did I miss something already? Because I was like, oh, okay, we're just going into it, which I appreciate. I appreciate
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that in media res, like big fan
Mhm.
of that kind of beginning. Um, but I wanted to step back first. Talk to me about Black Box Comics. This is going to be on comic book shelves, correct? Like this is in
Yes.
comic stores. Anybody can go to their local comic shop and order this book.
Yeah, that's right. It's available for pre-order at your local comic book shop, or you can get it from blackboxcomics.net, they're the publisher's website.
Awesome. And now I did check out the publisher site. This is
Mm,
a company that I feel like I've heard of it in
yeah.
passing, but I don't know any of the titles, like completely oblivious to all of the titles. But
Like,
there are several, and you have written quite a few of them. So, what's your relationship? Are you part of the business overall, or are you hired talent and
no,
just they just love your work?
I was hired to write Dream Master. The character and the plot is all their intellectual property. They reached out to me about a year ago, and uh the through my friend Travis Noakes, who does comics with Bueller, he referred me to them. Um and yeah, we got to talking, and they asked me what my strengths and weaknesses were, the genres I preferred to write and didn't want to write. And then once Dream Master became available, they approached me, gave me about like a page and a half synopsis of the character, the dilemma, the story, and then hired me to flesh it out. So yeah, I'm enjoying writing the story. It's a lot of fun. I work with a amazing art team, and yeah, I hope everyone digs Dream Master, when they get their hands on it.
Well, I saw that they've got pre-orders out to issue 5. Is this going to be a limited series, or is it planned to go farther?
It's planned to go farther. I've written at least 9 issues
Okay.
with no particular request for me to stop at a certain number, so I can continue to write Dream Master. Preferably, I've been asked to stay ahead of the artist, of course. So that, he has plenty of pages ahead of himself, so he can always have stay on top of the schedule. And yeah, I hope it's an ongoing series for as long as it can last.
That's really cool. And that's good to know as someone coming into it, being like, oh
Yeah.
man, I really enjoy this. Cause I can't tell you how many books I like, through various
Hmm.
Kickstarters, like
Yes.
indie bundles and such. I get an
Hmm.
issue 1 and I'm like, oh man, this is really cool. Like
Yeah.
scour the internet. There's no issue 2. There's,
Yes.
it never went anywhere. So it's good to
Mm.
know that there is already a plan to go several issues deep, which I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hope as long as people keep on liking it, there'll be more issues.
Heck yeah, I'd love to
Mm,
hear that.
mm,
Let's talk about your history. So, like, you were
mm.
you were approached before Black Box. What were some of your works that people might know?
Well, people probably most know me for the Recount, which was published by Scout Comics. That came out, issue one dropped November 2020. And then since then, that was a 4 issue miniseries. Earlier this year, a prequel one shot called The Recount Preamble was published. I've also done an all ages one shot called The Space Cadet, which is that cardboard cutout right there. Hard to
Nice.
see with the glare. Um, my other properties, Quicksand, that's my sci-fi thriller. I've also had 2 books published by Source Point Press last month. They were both one
Nice.
shots, Hyper Aware and Caffeinated Hearts. So I've dabbled in different genres, different formats, one shots, miniseries. But with Dream Master, this is one where I had to get out of my comfort zone. And when it came to issue 5, I really was uh, had to not try to wrap it all up in one package like I was used to
Right.
doing. the publisher was like, "What? That doesn't have to end. Just this can keep on going. So stop trying to close it out," which is different for me. So this is doing Dream Master is not only my first time being hired to write, but also the first time I get to just continue a story, and we can learn this character together, and that's what's so fun to write about it. I'm learning who Dream Master is with every issue. So we don't have like a target in mind, like, okay, in this issue, we're going to find out this. We just can evolve together. And I think it's something a lot of readers will appreciate. No one's going to know more than Dream Master. So you keep on following it, and you'll learn together.
That's awesome. See, I appreciate that. I actually just finished my first novella earlier this year, and I felt that way as well. Like a lot of the stuff that happened, there was no plan. Like I just sat down. I knew this guy was looking for some information, and the story kind of wrote itself. It evolved itself. So
Yeah.
I completely understand that perspective of like, this guy is telling me who he is. Like as I'm writing, that's cool. That's super cool.
Organic storytelling. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find it fascinating. Like I'm a process junkie like that. Most of that shelf over there is just sketchbooks and like art books and stuff up there. Like I love the whole process of storytelling and creation. So like the differences between I'm going to sit down, I'm going to plan out, 30 issues or 5 issues even, versus I'm going to sit down and write the first page and then just see where it goes.
Yeah.
Like I loved the differences and the results. Like everyone's going to, that's why I do a indie comics mag, and that's like my number one thing right now. Like my little editorial that I'm doing for the new issue that I'm dropping is the unique perspective of every creator, right? Like the sitting down and like, if I gave you the premise of X-Men without the context, like let's say you've never read an X-Men book, but I'm like, here, bunch of people born with powers, go to a school, and just walk away, you're gonna evolve a whole different story than I would or that somebody else would. So like that's why the age-old adage now is there are no unique ideas, there are no new ideas. It's just unique takes, right? Unique perspectives on a given idea. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's no wrong way to come up with your creative process. You can't tell someone, oh, you should have 7 issues written before you start artwork, or you should, have this insane corkboard with post-it notes all over it with strings going all over the place, like some, neurotic detective in like a 80s movie or something. You don't have to. If that's your process, by all means, that's your process. You can do that, but you don't have to do that. You can find it on your own, and it's okay to stumble through it. That's probably where you're going to find your best stuff, is by stumbling through it in the first place.
So. Absolutely. Making your own mistakes. Like, yeah, you can learn from other people's mistakes, but like you have to make your own mistakes, because if you do just mirror somebody else's process, you're not doing what you are, like you're doing what they are. So yeah, like, anyone wants to come out here and do a big introspective piece about how superheroes are dangerous, like, yeah, you're just making Alan Moore's work. But like your take on that concept could be completely different. So yeah, I love the differences in the way stories are told. So you started with a bunch of different stuff. Now, what was the first thing you ever put out? What was like, were you always like, I'm gonna write a bunch of different stuff? Like, did you start with a novel? Did you start with short stories? Like, what's the first thing you gave out to the world?
I was secretly a writer for a long time, just putting things in, composition books that no one's ever going to see. But I was always a long-term comic book reader and collector. And then just one day, I was curious to see if I could write in the comic book script format. So I researched and learned how that was, to a degree, because there's really not a set in stone, way to even do that too. There's multiple different ways. Well, there's a structure, a universal structure, but you can differentiate from that. But so I took a short story that I had written and I never showed anyone, adapted that to a 25-page comic book script as a one shot, And then once it was all done, I was like, now what do I do with this thing? So I asked around, um, and through that and networking, I eventually found myself project managing this script into an actual tangible comic book. And that was called Freak Show Princess. It's a short little zombie comic book. And once I learned how you could make a comic book, I was hooked. I already had another story going on. I was like, all right, that was a one shot. Let me see if I can do a mini series, and then one thing after another. So yeah, I mean, you have to start from something, and I think anyone can make a comic, but you just have to, learn your role in that process and what you want to do the most in that comic book streamline.
For sure. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who want to kind of dive into it a little bit, but they don't know like
Yeah,
how much is necessary right out the gate. Like
right.
I have been deep into comics since I basically since I got to this country. Like I was an
Mhm,
immigrant. So like I started reading in 96, and like
mhm,
97 I started writing my first comic book.
right.
Like, which has evolved, and originally it was called Techno Ninjas, and it's funny because somebody actually made a comic book called Techno Ninjas, and I thought it was hilarious.
Mm,
But like it's evolved and it's become this thing, and it's like my magnum opus, right? It's the big one. It's the
right.
one that
Of
I've spent
course.
literal
Mm,
decades on at this point.
mm,
And it's like, will it ever happen? Who knows? But like
right.
the process of like evolving that whole thing, like starting with like
Mm,
this grandiose, like I want an X-Men, like I want a
yeah.
big thing, and
Mm,
converting it, like having conversations where I spoke to somebody once and I was like, I'm going to go to Marvel and I'm going to pitch
mm.
them 10 years, 100 issues or
Right.
nothing. And
Yeah.
and they looked at me, they were like, they're going to laugh at you.
Yeah. Mm.
Like
They're not
you,
gonna let you in the building.
yeah. And like, they're like, no, get this person away from us. He's
Right.
dangerous. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what your point of like, you have to start somewhere. So like,
Yeah.
over the years, I've realized like I'm not going to draw. Like my art is, in my opinion, no, it's not production quality. Like
Same.
like
Mm,
so I was like, I'm not going to even like waste my time on it. Like
mm,
what I can produce is not going to be what I want to see in comics.
mm.
So I'm going to focus on writing, and that's what's really grown for me. And
Yeah.
putting out my first novella this year is hype. Having like that final, like once I put it all together and it was one document, I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that's awesome. Like it's
Yeah.
done. It's
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Right. When you can step back and see, all your efforts, that it pays off. You can be like a proud parent of that.
Yeah. So with Dream Master,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting, as the kids say these days, it's giving Sandman vibes.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Sandman universe.
Mm-hmm.
This laptop is on top of Sandman Overture right now.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm.
It's a great like the exploration of the dream
Mm-hmm.
space and all that stuff, like
Yeah.
super interesting to me.
Right.
So can you give us, obviously let's not spoil anything, but
Sure.
can you give us like a general idea of like what you're hoping to, what you're planning to explore in this book?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Sandman as well. I own a complete run of the single issues, the 1 through
Wow,
75, multiple
awesome.
copies of some of them. I have a hard cover of the Overture back there in that shelf. Yeah, big fan. And but I can honestly say that Dream Master, I wasn't influenced by the Sandman whatsoever. I didn't go into it wanting it to be like Sandman, and I was also not trying to not make it the Sandman either.
Yeah,
I already knew it wasn't going to be the Sandman.
right.
So the similarities begin and end that it takes place in the dream world, and that's about it. Sandman is a bunch of characters that are gods and personifications of feelings and state of minds. Dream, death, delirium, and so forth. Uh, Dream Master, however, is this unsung hero within the dream world that no one knows about. unless he is saving you from your nightmare that you can actually die in. So you only know about that when Dream Master is saving you. Then
Right.
you wake up and you had no idea what's happening. Just like I try to write these issues and give you the feeling that so many people have that same emotions of when you wake up. You're like, whew, that was such a relief.
Yeah.
It was just a dream. That was just a nightmare. And then you instantly like kind of forget about it throughout the day or even right away. I wanted Dream Master to be those things that you forgot about, but now you get to read through it. So the first arc, we kind of experience a couple of dreamers uh, adventures, if I can say that, and the events that they get into and have to be rescued from by the Dream Master to kind of show you what he's working with and what his curse is and why he's in that position. And like I said, he's an unsung hero. No one knows he's doing this, and he's just has to do it because if not, our real world that we live in when we're awake could collapse and fold in on itself if he wasn't there.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay. So big
it's
stakes.
big stakes. And I'm honestly was more influenced and borrowed from Stephen King's The Dark Tower. And I'm a huge
Mm.
fan of the Dark Tower series. I've read the books, a lot of the comic books that came out with it too. And yeah, I felt like that the Dark Tower was more of a horror fantasy adventure that has length, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what we wanted. We wanted Dream Master to be a horror book first, but it needs to for it to be an ongoing series. We need to watch this journey with this character. So that's I lean closer to the Dark Tower with that.
I feel that. I will say, as someone who is generally not a horror fan, um,
Mm.
I felt right at home. Like the action
Good.
adventureness of it was
Yeah.
super cool. Like he's got the gadgets. Like
Hmm.
it's it's a bit Daryl from The Walking Dead, a bit Batman,
Yeah.
a bit the
Hmm.
Shadow of all. Like that was
Yeah.
I don't think about the Shadow like
Mm.
ever. So
Right.
as I'm looking out, it just hit me. I was like, just kind of felt like the Shadow. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I see it.
Hmm.
Like, you get the full face mask, he's got the purple cape. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, like I see it.
Yeah, some noir, in that, some fantasy noir. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And I love it at least from the first issue, it feels like it's going to be an episodic structure, right? We're
Yeah.
gonna have the main adventure and
Hmm.
then we're gonna have the underlying plot. We had
Right.
that last issue, last page reveal.
Yes.
Huge, super,
Mm.
like definitely got me curious. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there's not more. Like I kept scrolling. Like, why is there not more?
Right.
So like it definitely gets you that you want more from the story. So that the fact that you've already got several issues written and are working on even more is
Yeah.
fantastic to hear. But yeah, I really truly enjoyed it. Like I said, I
Great.
am
Thank
not
you.
generally a fan of horror, and
Right.
I honestly, now horror fans may disagree, and
Mm.
they might think this is way more horror than because there's definitely element, like I see the elements of it,
Mm.
but maybe for me I'm just focusing in on the things that really resonate for me,
Sure.
because I
Yeah.
could like the landscape of the dream space is crazy.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
went through a couple times and I'm like, wow, there's like a lot of stuff going on around. Like
Hmm.
it's super interesting. Besides just the main action, the artwork
Right.
is gorgeous,
Oh, yes.
fantastic work.
Hmm.
Who is the artist, and is this someone you've worked with before?
Never worked with him before. His name is Luigi Baricelli, and he's killing it. He's a beast. I'm so fortunate that he's on this book as well as the colorist Ruben Cordo. Those two together are making this book like rock stars. When I first wrote issue one, I didn't know who the artist was going to be. So I wrote my art direction like I normally do for like in a neutral way. Then I started seeing pages come back from Luigi, and I realized how like detailed and um, like extra little things he puts in there. He doesn't waste a square centimeter on. There's always something to go back and look at, which I think is more valuable than anything else. Like you don't just get a good story. I can humbly say that, but you can go back and reread it and see these things that he threw in that was not in my art direction whatsoever, which just elevate it so much more. So like after issue 1, it only gets better because once I saw like what he could do, I made sure, all right, I need to give this guy more splash pages, like double splash pages, and he can do like crazy creatures, and he wants to do them. So it was, there was no limit. The sky was the limit, and now, I haven't got to a point so far where Luigi's like, yeah, I can't do that, or that's too hard, or I'm going to cut back this way. Nope.
Right.
It just gets weirder and weirder, which is perfect for the series. So I don't have to be like, oh, I don't know if he could draw this particular thing or it'll look right. Nope. And the first 4 issues are on pre-order through Diamond, and he's doing wraparound covers for all the A covers.
Ooh,
yes.
that's
so
awesome. That first issue cover is fire.
Yes, and that's just one example. I mean, the issue 3 wraparound is probably my favorite so far, and that one kind of will give you a little bit of Easter eggs of what's inside that issue, and that's when I really knew like I could do whatever I could just ask for whatever I wanted, and that's what every writer wants. They want an artist that can deliver, and Luigi delivers, and then Ruben, has his work cut out for him because he's got to color in all these little minuscule details, but he's doing it, and he's doing it better than we could have asked for. So like the color palette is amazing, the panel and sequential storytelling is amazing. And then DC Hopkins, he's a Ringo nominated letterer. He came in and made my words look pretty. So it's a really good vibe as far as the creative team goes. And I hope people can see that like we're all working in unison to get everyone like every penny's worth out of this book.
And I think you're going to be succeeding. I mean, just based off the first issue, it like you said, the art elevates the story, the colors elevate the art, the letters just bring everything together. Like it really is a beautifully put together collaborative piece of work. I've seen I do this for indie people. I'm humbly call myself the indie hype man. I see a lot of indie work out there, and no shade to anybody that's putting out their first book and they're lettering inside a Word or where whatever, getting it done. Like I appreciate the hustle, getting it done but like there is a difference between like I am not a letterer, but I feel like it is likely that my first comic book issue is probably going to be lettered by me. And it's like already disappointing to me because I know I will not do the kind of job that somebody who does that, and that is the thing they're passionate about, because you can see the difference. You can see the difference.
Oh, absolutely.
In just the stroke of the letters and the stroke of the characters on the page. Like it's completely it's completely different. Like somebody just putting it out, throwing it inside of Photoshop or whatever, versus somebody who knows what they're doing. And goodness, if somebody puts ink to paper, that's an entirely whole different.
Oh yeah.
I love like watching people do inking and lettering on paper.
Oh yeah, traditional.
It's like zen. It's just like watching, just like you just meditate to it. It's beautiful. Like
art being created right in front of you.
It is super exciting to have something that's, like I said, it feels, I don't want to fluff your ego too much, but it feels Marvel level. Like it feels big leagues, man. Like there's been stuff that I have seen from Marvel and DC and like big names. I mean, most recently, and no, I gotta give it shade. Like it's one of my favorite characters, but the new Tim Drake book, Drake Robin, I don't like the art. It is entirely the wrong kind of art for that book.
Right.
And there's, like you said, there's a lot left on the table. There's a lot of blank area. There's a lot of lack of
Mhm.
detail. And it's like, where is that? Like, I need, like,
Yeah.
this is Robin. This is
Right.
street fighting. This is,
Mhm.
noir. That there needs to be that grittiness to it. And this was just, and that's why I like, what you're putting together here, and your artist is just fantastic. Like, the whole thing is top tier. Like, seeing indie books
Mhm.
be at this level of quality that I often see missing at the majors,
Mhm.
it just overjoys me, honestly. Like,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a very professional book. It's lumped into the indie genre, which is I'm proud of. There's nothing wrong with that. I consider ourselves we're in the golden age of indie comics right now. I mean,
absolutely.
this is the time to get into indie. There's so many good choices. There's a comic book for everybody. Um, and thankfully we have things like the big two that gets people in the doors,
Right.
people that want that. Black Panther came out in the theater, I want to go get a Black Panther comic book. Whoa, what's this Dream Master guy? I'm gonna get that too.
Yeah.
We need that. So nothing against them, but it's like you're saying, the analogy with like big leagues in college. A lot of people like college basketball because those guys are hustling. They're
Yeah.
hustling
Oh
because
yeah.
they want to get paid, and they want to level up. You know, so
You see the points totals are different.
yes.
College ball has a lot higher point
Mhm.
scores because
Right.
everybody's working.
Right.
Like,
And that's we're coming. Everyone on this book, we're coming 100% and then some. Uh, and all like the variant covers are fire too. If
and there's a bunch
people,
of them.
yeah, there's a lot of variant covers. There's going to be a blank sketch cover too, so I'm excited to see what people are going to get done with that. I just I'm just the writer, and I get to sit back and say, how cool this is. I get to be involved with it, and I just hope everyone, gets a chance to check it out and appreciate everyone else's hard work that's being put into it too. Mm.
Well, I don't see anyone being disappointed by this book. It is
Thank you.
fantastic from page one.
Mm.
It just automatically you're sucked in. I mean,
Mhm.
just out the gate, you're like, what's going on? Where are we? And then it just gets better from there. Uh,
Thank you.
I man, I'm excited to read more of this. Uh, and it's one of those things. I'll be very honest. Very few books, especially if I'm being very honest, especially very few indie books
Mm.
have gotten me that excited right out the
Oh
gate.
wow.
Because a lot of the times it's long wait times. You have a
Yes.
first issue, and especially if it's something where they got to go through Kickstarter,
Hmm.
which is again no shade, no, yeah, I respect
Right.
the
I
hustle,
get it.
but I'm gonna
Hmm.
wait 3-4 issues because I like to read a lot of the story.
Sure.
I don't like to be 1 or 2 issues in and then I'm like, all right, cool. Now I got to wait 3.5 months for the
Mm.
next Kickstarter to
Or
drop.
longer.
Yeah, or
Mm.
longer.
Yeah.
There's one that,
Mm.
goodness, I don't even know how long I'm gonna be waiting because
Mm.
like the artist that they had, and this is
Mm.
I mean, it's funny, but it's an unfortunate situation.
Mm.
Took the money and ran. Just
Yeah.
never put the work in. Like gave a couple pages and then just stopped responding, which sucks. Like
Yeah.
that is a horrible
Yeah.
situation to be in.
It happens.
But
Yeah.
it's like if you're sitting there and you read the first one, who
Yeah.
knows how long the second one's going to take. So but with
Right.
this, and especially knowing that the work is there already, that there are
Mm.
issues already in the pipeline, issues
Yeah.
already done,
Mm.
that's the kind of thing that gets me excited. Like, so is this, that's the other thing I was going to ask, is this going to be monthly? Because a lot of indie stuff is not very monthly. Is this a
Right.
monthly book?
1 through 5. The first volume is gonna be monthly. Then there might be a slight hiatus. I honestly don't know how long it would be before the second volume comes out, but when that's all packaged, that would be monthly again. So it'd be 1 through 5, probably several months gap. Then 6 through 10, so we can put those out monthly too. So with Black Box being, a smaller indie publisher, they don't have the ability right now to have multiple titles coming out at the same time. But
Sure.
what's good about that is quality control.
Right.
You know, so they do have back-to-back comics. It's just 5 issues of this story, then 5 issues of the next one, and then maybe we'll see volume 2 of the one before that. So they're getting there, but it takes growth, but it's growth in the right way.
Exactly. And that's good. Like, that's a good thing to see, because
Mhm.
it's not just we're just throwing out whatever we can put out there.
Right.
Because I'm in the Chicago area. We had a local publisher that went out of business, and they were hustling a
Mhm.
lot of books. They were
Yeah.
hustling a lot of books from a lot of different independent creators.
Mhm.
Most of the stuff wasn't even like their IP. It was
Mhm.
people bringing their whole IP
Right.
being published by them, and then they just shut down one day. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just kind of like they'd put out trades, they'd put out, I
Mhm.
think I want to say at least 15 or 20 titles,
Wow.
and at some point, I think up to 10
Mhm.
simultaneously,
Mhm.
multiple trades, and then they just shut down. And it's
Yeah.
like, with this, like you said, there's a quality control aspect to it,
Mhm.
and you can never get overwhelmed. Like,
Exactly.
you're going to have these 5 issues. We're going to get we as an audience are going to get this 5 issues. We're going to be able to read it, and from there we can be like, oh, cool, volume 1 is done,
Mhm.
and then whatever the next project that comes out from Black Box, maybe we'll jump on that,
Yeah.
or we'll just wait until the next volume comes out, and we'll know that we're going to get a whole volume out of it. We're not going to get issue
Exactly.
6, and then it's like something happens, there's a
Yeah.
delay, blah blah blah.
Right.
We I appreciate the fact that all of this is kind of like considered within the whole process.
Oh, definitely. Making comics isn't, an overnight thing. I started my conversation with Black Box August 2021, and now here we are, November 2022, with the first issue about to come out. So it takes a long time to do it right, but that's what we're
Absolutely.
doing. We're doing it right. We're making sure everyone doesn't, is who's invested in this book as a fan, as a reader, as a collector.
Hello.
I hope that my little part, if people crack it open and read it, and they enjoy it too.
Awesome, awesome. You cut out for
Mhm.
just a second there, and
Oh, sorry.
oh, no worries, no worries.
Mhm.
um I wanted to ask one final question here before I know you have to go. What is the difference from your perspective, since you've done kind of both ends of it,
Mhm.
being completely solo independent
Mhm.
and coming in and working on somebody else's property, and like what is the pluses and minuses of both?
That's a good question. Yeah. So, being when I'm the project manager, it's kind of daunting. I'm financing the entire thing. I'm herding the cats, if you will. I got money going to this person in this country. I got money going in this direction, and then I'm following up with this guy who I paid a long time ago, but I haven't seen the pages back yet, and I'm correcting this stuff going on. It's a lot, but the pro with that is I get to do whatever I want.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm right. um, Now with Dream Master, with it not being my IP and I'm hired, just to write it, a lot of that burden of the project management side is I don't have to carry whatsoever. Um, but the downside is, I don't have control. But the good side of it is I don't have control. Like I probably wouldn't have even looked in Luigi's direction because maybe I would have passed him by because over the sea of other artists that are out there, or maybe I would have approached him but not wouldn't have been able to afford him and so
Right.
forth. So um, I also don't have the connections because Black Box says as a publisher is able to scout out talent in a different way than I can. As someone that would have to maybe crowd fund the book first, that may be less appealing to someone that is a higher caliber. So pros and cons both way. If I could have it my own way, I guess it would probably be like this right now with Black Box, where I can sit back, do the writing. I get to see the pages and get put my 2 cents in. But at the end of the day, as my cat's trying to unplug my headphones, at the end of the day, it's better that I don't have full control over it because it's you know, the product is going to be better that way. And I now I can focus on more writing too. You know,
Right.
I'm less involved on hunting these things down in emails. I can write. You know, that can be creative instead of 99% project management.
Right. Right. I completely feel that. I understand that. You know, the amount of emails I go through just for one issue of a free magazine.
Yeah.
So no one's getting even paid there. So
right.
so I completely understand that. Well, Jonathan, thank you for your time. Anybody
you.
watching and listening, make sure you go to blackboxcomics.net.
Yes.
Blackboxcomics.net. Pre-order at your local comic shop. Comixology.
I'm not sure if it's going to be on Comixology or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I know I saw that some of the other books are on Comixology.
Okay,
so
then
at some point.
Yeah, if other black box comics are on there, then I would assume Dream Master would be too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's gonna be it for this one, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. I tell you about how they've been living before they go living. My vision is vivid. I wander the places they marvel. The shit that I'm talking is low-key a novel. Yeah, I'm so lit, but a lonely spark. About to end game like Tony Stark.